lost a lot of close games. We should have won. Just frustrated. And it was a Friday walkthrough, and we get in a whole freaking team brawl. We're getting ready to play Indiana. Somebody said something. It's usually the old linemen that are cheating. We obviously on defense have to retaliate. And it's never us. We never start.
Yeah, it's never the defense. Yeah, it's always the other guy. Yeah,
honest individuals. And Coach Ferentz kicks us out of practice, and we go and kick the crap out of a really good Indiana team at that time. And then we ended up winning the rest of the games that season until we lost to Northwestern. Just a scrappy group of dudes. Obviously, just dudes that are out of their mind. You got to have that. Greenwood was the only one that wasn't nuts. Maybe Benz, he wasn't crazy either, but Benz could do some dirty work as well too. But Greenwood was probably the only one that had a future, the one that could have got a job and would have done a good interview, other than us that are just chewing on crayons and eating rocks.
Welcome to the Gallery and Hurley Unfiltered podcast, Iowa Football Rewind.
Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast player to get a behind-the-scenes look that you won't find anywhere else.
You got a little gym in there?
And honestly, I don't do much working out in here. I think it's mainly just to get away.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's my little quiet time.
Sure, that doesn't happen much with 3 kids.
No, my oldest is 13, and then I got a 13-year-old boy, a 10-year-old boy, and then my daughter's 7. So the 10-year-old and the 13-year-old, I'm not cool anymore. They're all over the place. My daughter still likes to hang out with me, so hopefully I can still keep her liking me for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's funny how that switches, right? One day it's just you're not cool and not fun to hang out with when they spend all the time with you in the world.
Yeah. And at that time when they're spending all the time with you, you just want, sometimes just leave me alone. Right now it's like, dude, I'm going to their room trying to hang out with them. Get away, Dad. You're a loser. What do you think?
Hard on the self-esteem, I'm sure.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so I'll go in my room.
It's funny. My 10-year-old's like, Dad, you weren't even that good at football. You're not in the Hall of Fame. I'm like, dude, come on, man.
Jeez.
Ouch. Damn.
Gallery.
And I'm like, you can't even read, so watch it.
I am up there. You just can't read it.
We met Mike Daly's son at the bowl game, and he was like, "Oh, how good was my dad?" And this and that. And I was like, "Oh man, the one tough son of a bitch."
Yeah, was he bullshitting me or not? Yeah.
Asking the old man, yeah. I think his dad played it off too. He was pretty humble guy, so he probably was just like, "Yeah, I played, and wasn't very good." But
that's kind of like all of us. None of us are where I was like, we sucked, whatever. Because we played with so many great players. Hey, those guys were good, right? We were just dudes.
Oh, it's a humble fest. Yeah, some of these guys get on, and you're like, I'm like, wait, hold on. I get sucked into it. I'm like, no, wait, you were amazing. What are you talking about? Or Jared DeVries tried to tell me he wasn't fast, and he's like, oh yeah, we're like 4.6. I'm like, yeah, you were fast. Let's not bullshit here. Oh, it's like
a big dude moving fast, man. God.
Yeah, I was like, I was wondering how he's able to track those guys down weighing 280, just like side to side. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But
yeah.
Definitely. So let's get into it. Tonight we have Pat Anger, linebacker from 2005 to 2009 for the Iowa Hawkeyes, and now the voice of Iowa football. Pat, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Now I am not the voice. Gary is the voice. I'm just the dumb dude in the booth that says random stuff.
You're the guy behind the guy, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
The backup voice.
Yeah, yes. And the backup quarterback, that's where it's at. So if I can continue to be that backup quarterback, you can play a long time without having to do a lot of work.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Ed Podolak was there for 42 years or something crazy like that.
That's wild, man. Yeah, the stories that Dolph told me, and those guys, they've seen a lot. They've seen everything. And I'm glad that he welcomed me with open arms. I couldn't imagine doing it for that long, especially with the same guy, and then bringing in some idiot and that doesn't know anything, has never done any radio. So I was very happy that with how Dolph treated me, because I'm sure he's probably annoyed at times, but it was a ton of fun.
I'm sure he loved it too. Some new energy, some defensive energy, stuff that something new for him for sure. Did you get any advice from Ed as he was going out, or no?
And no, I don't think Ed's good at using the phone. I tried to call him, and then I think he clicked it and then hung up and then called me back, and then we played phone tag for 3 times. No no advice yet, but I'm hoping to get with him because it was kind of late when I got the gig, and I'm hoping to get with him this offseason and pick his brain.
Got it. Nice. We can talk about that more later in the show. Let's kick it off. Tell us about growing up in Bettendorf and your start into sports.
Yeah. Grew up in Bettendorf. I've got 3 older brothers and an older sister. They have a different dad. Their dad passed away when they were young, and my mom got remarried. My dad was 46 when he had me, which I couldn't imagine having a squirrely kid with a rat tail at 46. I'm 38 right now. I couldn't imagine having a newborn. But they all played sports, and my dad worked at Alcoa, which is a big aluminum factory. Now it's Arconic. And he worked, there for 35 plus years. And, so I always knew like hard work. My family played sports. My siblings played sports. So I always wanted to just play for Bettendorf, and started playing soccer. I thought I was going to be the next Pele, but that didn't work out. And then I actually played soccer all the way through senior year in high school. And really we weren't the best soccer players. It was basically our football team. And soccer was pretty big in Bettendorf. And it's still decently big, but it's not as big as it was back then. So our time of possession was basically like 2 minutes, but we would just send through balls and we'd make it like a 40-yard sprint, and ended up winning state and had a lot of success there. But I always thought it was like soccer or basketball. And then 7th grade, I got put on the B team in basketball, and I was like, screw this, I'm gonna wrestle. And I wasn't a great basketball player. I was number 91, so I could just get rebounds. I couldn't shoot or really do anything cool. And so then I started wrestling in 7th grade, and I was okay. But our varsity team wasn't very good, so I wrestled varsity as a freshman, and I pretty much lost probably every match. I think I was like 5-30, which that was a tough year. But I got my letter jacket, so that was cool. I could wear that around,
Nice.
pick up chicks, and then sophomore year I was about 500 wrestler, and then I got brought up to, prior to wrestling season, I got brought up to varsity on the football team, and that's when I first realized that I might be okay at football. Bettendorf had a big tradition of football and linebackers and all that stuff, so it was cool to be a part of that. Like Zach Abelman, who played at Iowa, he was when I was a freshman, he was a senior, and then Pat Gerskis was the middle linebacker my sophomore year, and he was really good, really talented. And then junior year, I started making some tackles, which one of the coaches came to me after one of the games and was like, "Hey, man, you had 21 tackles tonight." And I'm like, "Really?" No, and back then it was a little bit different because everybody just ran all the time. Passing wasn't cool, which helps for a slow, fat kid from Bettendorf just to be able to, I'm going to bite on play action anyway. So it made it a little bit easier. But then at that time, it's funny, like not funny, but so my dad was in the Army, and my brother Nate served in the Marines. He was in Somalia, and nobody in my family had graduated from college, and I never thought that college was even an option. We'd have a lot of money. My dad was a hard worker, and he made enough money for us to do what we wanted to do. But college, to me, was never really a thing. So I didn't really plan on going to college. I wanted to go to the military because that's just what you do, either military or I'll go work at Alcoa or whatever. And so I didn't really try in school. And so the coach brought me up. He's like, "Hey, man, you might have a future in this. You're making a ton of tackles." And so I went and checked my class rank, and I was like ranked 340 out of like 345. There were 5 kids with worse grades than me. That was about it. So that was a big turning point for me, kind of having to retake some things and prioritize school, which was tough because I had failed chemistry. I had failed ceramics. I'd probably failed chemistry too, but I failed ceramics, which is like impossible to do. It wasn't a priority at all. And unfortunately, it took football for me to wake up and realize, hey, dude, do it right the first time. But it was also embarrassing. You're supposed to be the stud linebacker, and you're sitting here taking freshman classes. And it wasn't like I was a dumb kid. I just didn't really apply myself. But then I'm sure everybody looked at me like, this guy's just dumb football player, just a dumb jock. And that was a good learning point for me, and was able to get my GPA up to qualify. Iowa had offered me going into my senior year. And at that time, they were coming off. Yeah, they were great. Obviously, watching your brother play, like that was like Iowa it was awesome. They were getting hot, and really looking for. I was like 180 pounds. I was listed at 215 pounds. I was listed at 6'2". I was probably 5'11". So I knew if I went to Iowa, Coach Doyle would get that weight put on me, and was lucky enough to accept that offer. And it was the smartest thing that I've ever did, other than ask my wife to marry me. And I ended up winning state my senior year in football. And it's funny, at that time, you think you got your whole life figured out. You realize now that you don't know shit. And I'm 38. And I don't know anything. So I'm glad that I figured it out at a young age and got things together.
It's funny you say that about the 48-year-old having a kid. So that's this guy.
You poor man. I'm so sorry.
I'd recommend it though. It's been a blast, and it's fun being an older dad because you just think about things differently and you see the world.
Yeah.
I think you've seen a lot of things. So I think that part's awesome. The energy, you're concerned that there's days that just nothing left in the tank, but that way. And then let's be honest about the wrestling. Iowa's a really tough wrestling state, right? So to be average at wrestling is good, right? There's the tradition for Iowa wrestling is intense, right? Definitely.
Yeah. I remember I won my first varsity match. Some kid did like a sit out on me, and I sucked him back and pinned him. And I'm like, I'm the best wrestler in the world. And then I went on the next match and got pinned in 10 seconds, and then continued to get pinned in 10 seconds for 20 matches in a row. But yeah, wrestling's definitely a priority here, and people get excited about it. So it is. And obviously nowadays, starting wrestling in 7th grade, like very few people can do that. Back then it was a little bit different, but nowadays these kids have been wrestling since they were 3 and 4, when I wasn't talented enough to compete there. And also I like to eat, and I wasn't good enough to really wrestle at my natural weight. I tell my wife I'd be 7 foot tall if I didn't cut so much weight just to try to make the varsity wrestling team.
Did you wrestle all the way through senior year?
No. So my junior year, I broke my wrist in football, and had to. I was in a cast for a long time, and I was in a cast basically all the way probably until the summer, and we went to the doctor, and they were going to put another cast on me, and they cut it off. They're like, all right, we're going to get a new cast, and my mom's like, let's go. So we took off before they could put a new cast on me, so I could start training hard for football again. So no, I didn't wrestle my junior year, and then my senior year, I fractured some vertebrae in my back playing football, and then I had to fix my wrist. Had to have wrist surgery as well after that, so I wasn't able to wrestle my junior and senior year.
Right. We talked to Tavian Banks and the excellence at Bettendorf. Can you speak to that a little bit? Was that still a thing? And like in the sports programs, he just was talking about the kind of competition and the level that people performed at. Can you speak to that a little bit?
We had a great. Our D-line coach was Kevin Frecking, and he ran our strength program, very similar to Coach Doyle as far as accountability and all that stuff. So that made the transition very easy. But gosh, we would train every day except for Sunday. Sunday was our only day off. And if you weren't there, like, we're running to your house and we're pulling you out of bed. Like, it was like that. Like, there was no option to skip. There was nothing. And if you had a college visit, Coach Frecking would open the gym up for you at 4 a.m. so you could get your lift in, man, just so you didn't miss out. But it was, and I grew up watching the Tavian and Tim Dwight games like that, the City High versus Bettendorf, like that was big. And those guys were heroes. It wasn't like, for me, like, it wasn't, nobody really wanted to really go to college and play football. Nobody wanted to go to the NFL. Like, you wanted to play for Bettendorf. Those guys were rock stars. And we had won state, I think probably since Tavian, when we won state in 2004. And we wanted to help carry on that tradition. And those guys set the bar, Tavian, and then you had Greg Brown and Hat Peterson and all those guys that you heard about them growing up, and you watched them and you wanted to be just like them. Like, football was everything. at Bettendorf, and it was just really awesome to be a part of it. I think 7 state championships I think Bettendorf's had, and probably one of the top, I would say, probably in 5A in the state. I know Southeast Polk and all those Des Moines schools are kicking butt right now, but yeah, football is important, and you better work your ass off. So after all of our workouts, let's say you run 10 sprints or whatever, you run 10 sprints, we would call it a victory lap. So we would have to sprint a 400. That was how we finished every workout, whether we had just ran a couple miles or ran a couple sprints or squatted or lifted or whatever. And that was just that. It really doesn't really help you in football because every play is about 6 seconds long, but just mentally and getting that toughness and that edge, like it was something that we really took pride in. I puked a lot of times on that track. It was a red track, and there was a lot of puke on there after pretty much every workout.
Wow, that's intense. 400 in itself is a terrible race. So,
dude, I couldn't run 400 right now with a gun in my head. I probably couldn't even drive. I couldn't even drive one without GPS.
I think I accidentally did decently well in high school in one of the. I was like, oh man, that was a stupid mistake. This is the worst race in the world. Yeah, it's like, yeah, let's run as fast as you can for just enough time to kill yourself. Like,
yeah. And then you've got those crazy 800 runners that do that. Like they can do that. It's wild.
Oh yeah, it's wide open for 2 laps. Yeah, no thanks. No thanks at all. Definitely. Interesting. Then I suppose too, with your family's like military background, then that probably played into that kind of mentality and mindset early on. So when you went to Iowa, you were already in that path, so it wasn't a big change for you, I'm guessing, really.
Yeah, the hard part for me when I went to Iowa, it wasn't. I mean, like the training and all that stuff, like that wasn't tough. I love that part. Like I love the training. I love pushing yourself because you can test that, right? You're either can you lift the weight or you can't. Like you can test it very easily where you're at. The problem that I had was the downtown area. That was tough for me, and I'm sure it was tough for a lot of guys. But I got there, and Abdul Hodge and Chad Greenwood were the starting linebackers. They were seniors, and they were studs. And then you had 2 guys that were 2 years younger than them, Mike Klinkenberg and Mike Humpel. And I did the math, and I'm like, okay, those guys would be gone at this time. So by the time I'm a junior, I'll be a starter. The problem for me is I didn't prepare like I was a starter right away. I didn't do things right off the field that I should have done. I always worked hard and all that stuff, but I didn't watch the film. I didn't eat healthy. I was first one downtown, last one to leave. I was the guy that you bring in a recruit, like, all right, Pat'll hang out with them. And it's funny because like at the time you think like you're the cool guy, but really you're just a loser. And there was a game we were playing Wisconsin my sophomore year, and everybody had gotten hurt except for all the linebackers gotten hurt except for me and the true freshman. And instead of putting me in, they put in the true freshman. And that was an accountability time. That was a big learning process for me. And that was a big wake up call. And I'm glad it happened because if they would have put me in and I would have done well, I probably wouldn't have changed. I probably wouldn't have grown up. Or if they put me in and I didn't do well, I'd have been like, whatever. But I cried my eyes out the whole way home. And I looked at, in that time, you've got your family and they're always going to give you the benefit of the doubt, right? And your friends are going to give you the benefit of the doubt. But those people don't see what you're doing off the field. A lot of them, they don't see what you're doing at practice. They don't see just how you're living your life. Your family is going to look out. They're going to look out for the best. They're going to think you're doing the best. And I didn't earn their benefit of the doubt, and I didn't earn the coach's trust. And it took me about a week to figure that out, and some talks with some coaches. And I looked in the mirror and realized that I was wasting an opportunity. And I'm so glad that I did, because I don't know where the hell I would be. And I'm glad that it happened back before the transfer portal, because I don't know what I would have done. Nowadays, a kid would just think, I'm going to enter the transfer portal and I'm going to put a Band-Aid on this problem, as opposed to look at yourself in the mirror and taking ownership and where you put yourself at. And it wasn't an overnight success. Like I really had to hunker down. I really had to re-earn the coach's trust. And I didn't start my first game my junior year. I didn't start my second game, but I started my third game and ended up becoming an all Big Ten linebacker that year.
It's interesting to hear you say that, because I think there is that part of, there's just an obvious transition, right? From going from high school and kind of being right, under your parents' care and that, then you're out in the world by yourself at college that first year. And I think it is just like a rite of passage or kind of a development that people have to go through of like, all right, I've got a chance to do whatever I want. You probably need to go out and do a few of those things, right? And then click in at some point. I think there's that part where you have to overcome that part. You have to at least you do that sort of thing. And I think for me, I played as a freshman, so I didn't have that time to blow off steam and do that. So I did that later. I don't know if that was a good thing for me either, because it was like when I was done with college and I was like, okay, now is my time to have fun and do that. And so it's a little bit of, it almost felt like that you need that part to be like, okay, let's have some fun and then figure it out and get serious when you got to, that light's got to click on, I think. So yeah, that feels like a natural progression, I guess, to some degree. And that's where the red shirt and those things, I guess, come in, I'm sure, too.
Yeah. The hard part is, I wasn't playing. So then it's, you've got to blow off that steam. And it's, you get yourself in a lot of trouble trying to blow off that steam, because it's, when you walk out of downtown and half the people are blasted, and it's like Street Fighter down there some of the times. I don't know if it is anymore, but it was rough at times. But yeah, it's funny. Probably my first 2 years, I did all that, and then kind of once I made the change, like I never went downtown. I just didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to do stupid stuff, and I had done enough stupid stuff at that point. So I'm glad I got it out of my system. Not that I don't do anything stupid anymore, but I try to tend not to.
And it's such a fun environment too, right? It's like everyone's excited. They're like, it's just an electric environment. There's 30 bars within 2 blocks. And so, yeah, it's a college experience, right? So it's hard to keep those things in level of like, all right, I want to have some fun. I'm still young, but I still also have these goals and dreams to do this football and that. So I think it's a tough mix. It's a tough mix to figure out, like, that part of it, I think.
And you've got $20, and $20 would it'd take you through the weekend. Remember those days when $20 was a decent amount of money? Now it's, gosh, $20 to freaking go to the gas station to get a pop or something.
Oh yeah, I think I went downtown with $10.
Richest guy in the world.
Yeah, richest guy in the world, and I knew all the bartenders, so my friends would be like, "Oh, here, get us this, do this," and somehow I'd end up drinking the whole night, having a sandwich, and then coming home and I had $15 in my pocket. I was like, I somehow made money, and I wasn't like trying to make money, but I was like, wait, my pockets are full, I have some money in them. This is strange. But the people were stoked because they're like, oh, they were standing there for an hour because I could get the bartender's attention. I was like, that order of like, order 30 shots and 5 beers and come over with this handful of shit. But yeah. Oh, those are the days. What's that?
You work then.
Yeah. It was like a concierge or a host or something. Yeah, for sure. Got people in the front door. Yeah, all those things. So yeah, maybe it just was a different job. Yeah. My work study. It was my work study. Yeah. That's amazing. Let's back up a little bit to the recruiting process. Where else were you looking as far as schools, and like who's after you, and talk about that if you would.
Iowa State was the first one offered. They offered right after my junior year. Had a good junior year. Our offense wasn't on the field a lot, so I was able to make a ton of tackles, which isn't necessarily. We were 9-2. We had a fine year, but a lot of 3 and outs. So you get an opportunity to make a ton of tackles. So Iowa State offered first. Chris Ash was my recruiting coordinator, and then I like Coach McCarney. I thought I still like him. I think he's a good guy, and obviously he's an Iowa guy. And then I want to say it was like Northern Illinois, and then Indiana, or it could have been vice versa. Iowa offered me after I went to a 1-day camp, and then Iowa offered me. And Reese Morgan was my recruiting coordinator, and Reese is the best. He's awesome. He's still amazing, and the way that guy could build relationships was second to none. The guy's a machine, and obviously having Norm Parker be the D coordinator and the linebacker coach at that time, like guy was a legend. Guy, the best ever. And then Coach Ferentz and his track record. And then also Coach Doyle, knowing that if I'd listened to him, things would go well. I put the weight on and I'd be just fine.
And were you a Hawkeye fan growing up, or so was like Iowa State even a thought, or no?
Honestly, they were the first, and they gave me the most attention. But for a long time, I was leaning pretty close to them, and I hated the recruiting process. I hated it, and I would hate it right now too, because you got to go to those visits, and the guys are like doing all these poses and trying to. I would have been such a loser and such a dork that they would have pulled any offer they would have given me because I'd been so awkward. But yeah, Iowa State had clear number one after with Northern Illinois and Indiana, and then when Iowa offered it, it was just a no-brainer. I knew that they'd get the best out of me, and I trusted the longevity too of Coach Ferentz. I knew that he was going to be there a while. I wanted to play for him, and obviously Iowa was having a lot of success back then, and I wanted to be a part of it.
That's great. Yeah, it's amazing to think that you came in right as that like building process was at its top. It's like they had gone through those few years where they'd won a few games and were just building, and you to come in and to help push that along. What must have been a great experience with the talent that they had at that time and the different guys that were around you.
Yeah, and good guys. And you guys know it's the same group of guys that have been there when you were there. Just good quality individual. I remember my first practice being real nervous when they brought in. I think it was like a skills and drills day when everybody did the warm up and the agility stuff together, and just being terrified. And Ed Hinkle just being like, "Hey, stand behind me and do whatever I do." And I was like, "Okay, perfect." And he was way better at what we were doing than I was, but it was just cool to have I watched Ed Hinkle score millions of touchdowns and dominate and do well. And he just having Abdul and Chad and just you could name off of all those guys, and it's those guys year in and year out that help the younger players, and they're just good people. But as far as like being an Iowa fan, my dad was an Iowa fan. He was a big radio guy. He'd listen to Gary on the radio all the time, Gary and Ed, and he'd have the game on and he'd be listening to it on his headsets. And I was a little squirrely. Like I just never really had enough patience to sit down and watch a game, or we were at practice or something. But Iowa football was always on, and I was always either working out or doing sports. And my dad was working, so I never really went to an Iowa game until I started getting recruited.
Gotcha. Let's dig into the first year a little bit more. So you came in, you said physically you thought you weren't concerned about that part. Talk about more of the mental side of what you were thinking about at that time, how you got yourself ready to play in those regards.
I guess physically, I was like 210 at that time. So I knew my first year I was going to redshirt. And there was Zach Giblin. He was a linebacker there. He was a senior, he was a junior at that time, and he was a Bettendorf kid. So I wanted to emulate him and do the best I can. But I remember that first year, like you're treading water. You're playing scout team. You have no idea what the hell you're doing. You're getting yelled at because you don't know what's going on, and you're going against scout team. And I think Brian Ferentz, he was the center, and he's kicking the crap out of you, and you're just no idea what's going on. You're juggling the school thing, the mandatory study hours, and all that stuff. And yeah, the first year is really hard. I think it's hard on anybody. And luckily for me, I was an hour away, so I could always come home and have that. And I do have a lot of respect for the guys that come from Texas or Florida or out east, and that had to have been a lot harder because you didn't have that. They couldn't escape home randomly when you got a free time.
Yeah, I think I was lucky the same. When you say that hour away, that kind of reminded me. It would probably take my parents an hour and a half to get to Iowa City, and I think I got it down to 55 minutes because I was like, I'd go home a lot. I'd see my brothers and sister playing some of the sports and some of those things. So yeah, I think that was a huge part for me, having that ability as well. So I can understand how that felt for you and what that was like.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to see a familiar face, especially Your first year, you do feel a little bit alone. You're going through this big transition. You're trying to mature, and you're not mature, and you're trying to grow up, and you're coming from senior year where you feel you know everything, right? And then freshman year, you get there and you don't know anything. And I realized quickly that I didn't know anything about football. I didn't know anything. I didn't know coverages. I just blitzed in high school. I would just, wherever the center would go, I would just blitz the other gap, and it worked out. I was able to make a ton of tackles, but can't really do that against Brion Ferentz. It didn't work too well. Or Elgin. Yeah, Elgin was the guard, and he would take me out. Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit more, about what that process was like, getting into just learning the learning side of football, the X's and the O's and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that was definitely a lot harder for me, because it doesn't matter how fast you are if you don't know where the hell you're going. And it's funny when I look back at it, I thought our defense was so complicated. And I think the other positions it is, but not so much at middle linebacker. I didn't really have to do much. Yeah, it's as far as like the physical and like the run around and all that stuff, I think that was fine. When I got there, I realized quickly I had no idea about football. I had no concept of coverages, nothing. Like in high school, it was either blitz or you're guarding the running back, and half the time you didn't guard the running back. Quarterback didn't have that much time to throw, so you didn't really have to do much in coverage. And just understanding leverage. And what really helped me out, obviously, in coverage was soccer, because you're covering a guy that's dribbling the ball downfield. That's basically, you're covering a guy, a tight end or a wide receiver or running back out in the flat. That definitely helped me out. But understanding when to do it and where to go, like that was something that took me a little bit. Really, like I said before, it wasn't a complicated defense. We ran it quarter half, and we ran it under defense, and pretty simple and easy on a middle linebacker. But it took me a long time to get good at it. And a lot of the problem was because I wasn't focused on that. I was focused on, I love to lift and I love to train, all that stuff. I put my focus on stuff that I was good at, as opposed to stuff that I needed to work on. Because it's a lot easier to put that focus on things you're good at, as opposed to focus on stuff that you're not. And it took me a couple of years to really get into the X's and O's of it and figure it out.
And I'm guessing too, that's when you really had some success, right? If you had the physical gifts and that work ethic, and then once you put the mental side in it, then I'm sure the game was a much different thing for you.
Oh, it was so easy. And too, like I played behind, some of the best D linemen to ever come through the university, and that makes things a lot easier. There's a quote. It was like, "What does it take to be a good Hawkeye linebacker?" And it's to make being a Hawkeye linebacker the most important thing in your life. But really, what it takes to be a good Hawkeye linebacker is a good D line. That's really all it takes. And I was lucky that I played behind some amazing guys like Claiborne and Klug and Ballard and Binns and Mitch and Matt Kroll. Those guys were as good as it gets.
That's what Greenway said too. We talked to him this week, and he said the same thing. Like, he played in the NFL, he said, for so many years, because he said he had some awesome D-line.
Yeah, that's it. It makes a huge difference. And especially guys too that there are a lot of guys that they'll all lay, the D tackles will all lay just to see if they can get a tackle. But the guys that were super focused on doing their job and keeping guys off you, like those are guys we had at Iowa. And I remember Klug and all the D linemen coming to me after a series and be like, "Hey man, are you getting blocked? Are you good? Is everything good?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm fine. Like, you guys are doing great. Keep doing what you're doing. Like, I should try to do something on my own for once. Like, I need to be able to get off a freaking block. That's my fault if I get blocked." And yeah, you got guys that buy in, and you got selfless guys. And I was lucky enough to play with a lot of those dudes.
That's amazing to hear that camaraderie like that. I guess I never really thought about it in those terms. I mean, I realized that a great defensive lineman made it easier for the linebackers, but for them to, that's in their peripheral of what's happening behind them, and they're part of the game. I guess that's an interesting little tidbit that I never really would have thought that part of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the type of dudes that they recruit at Iowa. They're not. It's a selfless thing. Like it's a machine, and we all run together. And same thing. Like, hey, if a tight end's running down the middle of the field and I don't jam him and he guy catches it and everyone's like, oh, it's a safety's fault. No, it was my fault. I didn't get my hands on him. So it's everything works together, and guys, linemen shooting a gap they're not supposed to be in, or getting reached, and then trying to overreach it, and then you're trying to play off him, and you end up both getting reached, or you end up both ahead of the play. Like it pieces together, and luckily we had a good camaraderie and we had a good cohesion. We had been in a lot of fights together at practice, and we were pretty. It's guys that those guys I still die for, and I'm sure you guys have that. It's Klug calls me like, "Hey man, I need something." I'm like, all right, dude, I'm down. All those guys, and that's something like with the Brett Greenwood thing. Everybody talks about, "Hey man, it's so nice of you to be with him," but it's if I'm not there, then everything that we talked about, everything that we did, everything that we've done together and said was bullshit. That's what you do for a teammate. You're with him when he comes out of coma, and you fight for him forever. That's what it takes, and that's what they instilled in us.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think people go back and forth about the score and the games they've won and lost and all these other things. And I think to me, the most important thing is the quality of people that I've had the experience with, and the quality of experience that the guys are still there. Like you said, the same guys, same sort of camaraderie, same sort of like good human beings that are just do the things they should and do the things that are like what good people do. So I think that's the thing I'm most proud of, being part of this community of ex-players and players now. That's what makes it for me. That's what's like important in my world. And yeah, talk more about the Brent Greenwood thing. I know that was a super impactful time for a lot of people. So can you go into that a little deeper?
Yeah, he was. He had a situation training before he got picked up by the Steelers where he had collapsed, and they had done a procedure on him, and then everything was good. Ended up getting picked up by the Steelers, and they knew about it, so they did all the testing too. Everything was fine, and then ended up getting released in the final cuts. Came back and was training at Pleasant Valley High School, his high school, because they wanted him to help out for one of the games, and he's like, yeah, absolutely. And it's ironic that it happened because he usually would train by himself, which kind of all of us, I'm sure we all have and all did, because you just don't want to, you don't want to mess with anybody, or anybody mess with you. And he was there at a game training. It was a Friday, and he collapsed, and his heart stopped, and he was dead anywhere from, I don't know, like 15 to 20 some minutes. I want to say they did CPR on him for like 40 minutes. And
Holy shit.
he was in a coma for 20 plus days. And there was a time where the parents said, hey, he's going to be possibly a vegetable his whole life, and there might be an option to pull the plug. And knowing Brett was a year younger than me, and he went to PV and Bettendorf and PV, like we're big rivals. And Brett was always that little asshole that was always in your face and always trying real hard. And yeah, he's a guy you don't count out. And he was able to come out of the coma and basically had to relearn to swallow again. He had to start from basically scratch. And when I retired, and I say retired, I stopped playing because nobody wanted me. That was about 2014, 2015, and his PT had called and said, hey man, we're at a standstill here with Brett and would love if you could help out. And luckily I was in the area and my job was very flexible. And so I've been with him every Monday and Wednesday since then, helping him out with his rehab and watching his progress. And obviously there was so much loss of oxygen to his brain that his short-term memory is tough, as far as you say, remembering even what day it is, remembering what he had for breakfast. But he remembers all the dudes my wife used to date in middle school. So that's good. And he keeps bringing it up. He keeps bringing that shit up.
Doing,
yeah. But it's hard. And you guys know, like when you're done, man, it's hard. It's hard. You're so used to being a part of a team, and you're so used to the structure, and you're so used to the camaraderie. And I really struggled with it, but Brett gave me that thing.
Yeah, and there was that really memorable game where you helped him walk out on the field. That was touching moment for lots of people.
Yeah, it was cool. That was actually Coach Doyle's. God damn, he's tough to talk about.
Oh, I understand that for sure. Thanks for going there with us. I know it's
But yeah,
emotional.
that was Coach Doyle's idea, and it was great because we'd always say, "Hey, Brett, you're strong, you're a beast, like you got it." He'd be like, "Oh, I used to be," and that was God, that was his time to show how strong he is.
Definitely. Yeah, that was an emotional moment for everyone that saw that.
Yeah, and it's tough because like Brett was the best of us, and he still is. And like we were all idiots, and we ran one defense, and we'd still all line up and turn around. He'd have to tell us what the hell to do because we didn't know what we were doing. Brett was a walk-on 4-year starter, which there's not a lot of those. He was a 190-pound kid, walk-on 4-year starter, and he's a legend.
Looks to the center of the end zone, now throws to the end zone. Intercepted by Brett Greenwood. Now he steps up in the pocket, throws down the field, and it's intercepted. Picked off by Greenwood, and this one's in the bank.
Hey Hawk fans, Dale Clark here to tell you about a new scholarship being named after Brett Greenwood. Brett Greenwood is a true Hawkeye. Everything he's done and accomplished on and off the field are both courageous and inspiring. There isn't a better walk-on Hawk to name this scholarship after than Brett Greenwood. Go Hawks.
Brett Greenwood represents all the core values of Iowa football. He's tough, smart, physical player that had a great passion for the game and worked at it day in and day out over the course of his 5-year career.
Hey Hawkeye fans, Mark Weisman. Brett Greenwood's hard work and determination really paved the way for walk-ons like me to earn a scholarship here at Iowa, and couldn't be more thankful for him and all you fans out there. So if you could donate to the Brett Greenwood Scholarship, be truly thankful. Go Hawks.
Hi, this is Sean Considine, former Iowa safety, and I just want to take a minute to talk about the Brett Greenwood Athletic Scholarship and what a great idea this is. Brett Greenwood is the perfect person to put the name on this. He is exactly what Iowa football is all about. He was tough, he was smart, and he constantly got better at his time at Iowa. That's Iowa football.
Hi, my name is Pat Anger, former Iowa All-American middle linebacker, and I'm here to talk about supporting the Brett Greenwood Scholarship. What a great tribute it is for the university to name a scholarship in Brett's honor. Brett exemplifies what it means to be a Hawkeye more than any man that I've ever met. On and off the field his whole life, he succeeded and beat the odds and done it the right way. He truly is one of the greatest men to ever step foot inside Kinnick Stadium.
Talk about will and determination. He was right on our shoulders tonight. So, special ball for you, Brett.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. I know that's, I'm sure, a really emotional thing to see a friend and teammate go through all that. It's got to be tough.
That's hard. That's commitment for your whole life that you're a part of his rehab and helping him along. So it's awesome that you do that for him.
I appreciate it. That's like we talked about, man. That's what you do. That's what you do for your teammates, and he'd done the same for me. And that's the best part of my week, being there with him. God damn, you guys got me crying.
Oh, good, man. It's all good. It's the intense shit sometimes. People, I think people see football players as invincible and not that there's emotion and shit like that happens. So I think it's one of those things. It's family, right? It's all this stuff, right? Guys go through a lot of shit together and have huge bonds and like lifelong bonds that are hard to replicate anywhere else. I think maybe in the military, right, or places like that. That shit just doesn't happen. So it's it's like family. It's for sure.
Yeah, I got a buddy that he got out of the military, served a bunch of tours in Afghanistan, got out of the military kind of similar time when I got done playing, and obviously if I lose a game in football, like I can go home to my family, right? If he loses, like him or his buddies aren't coming home. So obviously different outcomes and stuff, but very similar bonds and similar rushes too. You make a tackle and there's 70,000 people screaming. Where can you find that? Probably other than probably the Russia war or the Russia fighting. And he helped me out quite a bit. When we helped each other out quite a bit. And, obviously it's still a kind of a struggle every day, I would say, because it was a really good part of your life and such a huge part of your life. And, from when you take a pee to when you eat to what weight you lift to what film you watch to who you hang out with, like it's all structured, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And it's hard to come to terms with. Hey, that was, I wouldn't necessarily say the best part of my life, but one of the best parts of my life probably over. It's not that you don't want to dwell on the fact that it's over. You want to be happy that it happened, and you're happy that you had those experiences with those people. And I know your brother talks to some military guys as well too, and helps him out with that as well. And it's a lot of similar relationships and similar struggles. Obviously, we've got it pretty easy. Shit, at the end of the day, got paid a lot of money to tackle people, go home to my family. Not a bad deal at all, but definitely miss the structure and the camaraderie and all that stuff because it's hard to transition.
Yeah, for sure. And then of course you're like 5 minutes or 10 minutes early to everything. No one else in the world.
Oh gosh, no, absolutely not.
Like I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh shit, I'm early again. Damn it.
No, yeah, it's so true. It's you're completely terrified of being late, and nobody understands it at all. And you're just sitting in your car, like, all right, I'm 30 minutes early. What the hell am I gonna do?
You're like 5 minutes early is on time, and you're just like, fuck, really? I'm still doing this 25 years later. Was it?
I still have, do you still have dreams? Do you guys still have dreams like you're late to a practice or a meeting? Like
I failure dreams where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to practice, and I'm like, I can't find my socks and walking around my helmet. Where's my helmet? It's terrible.
It's crazy shit. My wife, why are you still having those dreams? I don't know. I think I watched the game today, and it's something subconsciously put in there. Oh yeah, you might actually have to play tomorrow and be ready, and then you could go out there and you didn't stretch, and it's just like stupid stuff. But
I think Coach Ferentz might be the coach sometimes too, and I'm like, oh sweet, I get to play for Coach Ferentz, and then I'm like, wait, where's my stuff at? It's funny how deep some of that stuff goes. Yeah, that's hilarious. Talk to us about when you got into the game and you're playing and the game slowed down for you, and when you started having success. Like, talk about those moments, and then we can work into the combine and then the draft and some of those other things if you want.
Yeah, I would say probably after a couple games, my junior year, it really slowed down quite a bit because you really don't know what you don't know until you don't know it, and you think you have a good understanding of the defense. But the flow from practice to the game is so much different. Gaps open up a lot bigger, and things happen a lot faster. And really, you just start to remember blurs. Oh, that blur. All right, that's power. All right, that blur, like that's an ISO, that's a lead. All right, that's play action. And it took me a couple of games to get a good feel of it. And obviously, it was a lot better my senior year. And senior year was it was an interesting year because the first game we played UNI, and they were a really tough team, and they had a lot of talent. And defensively going into that game, I knew it was going to be really tough because they really spread you out. And Pat Grace was their quarterback and super talented, and just a really tough offense to go against, especially when we played with three linebackers in there, and they did a good job just picking us apart a little bit and sustaining drives. And we ended up having to block 2 punts or 2 field goals to win that game. That would have ruined the whole damn season. They were a really good team. And then I think we played Iowa State and maybe another team. And we went into Happy Valley and played Penn State, and they were ranked, I want to say 3. And they came out, and it was a night game, and it was a whiteout, and it was awesome. It was a little bit of rain, and they scored a touchdown on the first play of the game, and their quarterback, Darryl Clark, flexed, and he seemed like he was like 7 foot tall and 300 pounds and had bigger muscles than anybody I'd ever seen. I'm like, me and Eads are running down the field for the PAT, and we're looking at each other like, we might lose by 100. But we muddied it up, and Claiborne blocked a punt. We were actually in punt safe. Claiborne blocked a punt in the fourth quarter to give us the lead, and ended up beating them.
Very vivid.
Man,
Yes.
that was an awesome one.
What happened?
A lot of the best punt blocks is punt safe. You guys freaking know, especially in college, because you're having an all Big Ten or an All American DN going against some second string running back, or so. It's a big mismatch there, especially if you've got a fast tough DN. And it was I think it was just an up and in. And I got an interception. I want to say next series, tried to run over a lineman instead of just cutting. I have no offensive skills I have no offensive capabilities. So I tried to run over an offensive lineman and just got knocked out, and then was able to force a fumble the next series, and we ended up winning. And that season we had a lot of really close games, and a lot of credit goes to just, I don't think any of us thought we were any good, but we just loved a good fight. And Rick Stanzi was our quarterback, and just what a freaking fiery, tough ass dude, our freaking fearless leader. So I always knew we had a shot with Rick. There was one game we played Indiana, and I want to say Rick threw, I want to say it was 5 interceptions. And I don't think we were winning until third or fourth quarter. And we ended up covering the spread. I think we won about 20 points, just because Rick was just so like, all right, let's go. Let's fight. Who cares? But next play. Just nothing ever rattled Rick. And like when we had him out there, like we knew, like, dude, we were in any freaking game. And it got to where when he would throw a pick, we'd be like, all right, good, we're going to win. We got to have a system. We're going to freaking win. And
there was a lot of pick sixes, I remember.
Yeah, and we had, the motto was when he threw a pick or somebody would fumble or something that was on defense, it was, hey, let's go put the fire out. And it was good, more TV time for us. And it was, you got to look at it that way and embrace it. And dude, Rick was such a freaking tough dude, and glad he was the QB. He was a guy that I think nowadays too, if I called him like I do, I need some backup, like he's here. Like that, you don't get that a lot from a quarterback, and I love that dude, man. And that year we ended up we lost. Rick got hurt, lost to Northwestern, and then James Vander came in and played really well. And then we lost overtime at Ohio State to go to the Rose Bowl. And James did a really good job. I didn't play really good on defense. Terrell Pryor's 9 feet tall and runs a 4.2 and stiff armed me from 25 yards away. So that was tough to guard against. But then ended up going to the Orange Bowl and won that one. And that was cool. It was really cool to get that BCS win and just see the smiles on all the coaches' faces. And Georgia Tech, they ran a triple option. And as soon as we started studying it, Coach Nolan Parker came in and was like, all right, this is what you're going to do. And within the first meeting, I'm like, all right, we're going to kick the shit out of them. Like we're going to whoop their ass. And the whole game was set up to kind of spill. We played cover 2, and the whole game was set up to spill everything over the top or on the outside. And I stood 7 yards back and just played everything over the top. And the game was set up for me to make a ton of tackles, and Claiborne would tackle the guy before he would even get past the line of scrimmage. So it helps to have old Adrian.
I knew that game was over. I went to that game and it was cold. Remember?
Yeah.
The Georgia Tech guys were all in sleeves, and none of the Iowa guys had sleeves, but it was still warm for you guys down there. But I was like, it's over. You could tell just from the warm-ups. Yeah, you guys put it to him.
That was a fun one, man. And I liked it because they couldn't pass. So it was like, great. Then I just get to play the run the whole time. It's awesome. And they had Demarius Thomas. It was like a 6'4", 220-pound receiver. And I remember meeting him to do a coin flip. And I'm like, bigger than anybody on our team. Like, why aren't you throwing this guy the ball? And I'm glad they didn't. And our corners did a good job locking him down. But yeah, that would have been my first go-to if I line him up at 3 and make me try to cover him. There's no chance.
Talk some about the defensive mentality you guys had. Was it just, it was such a cohesive unit that you guys were able to do some of those things, or like what, or just like the resilience or the belief that you just weren't going to lose, or what? Talk through that piece, because some of those times you could tell that something happened, that it's like, okay, this switch flipped, and it was like, all right, then you just knew things were going to change around. You just there's a feeling that you could get in the crowd or something. I don't know. I was like, to talk to that if you would.
I think we were just all equally insane, and we all loved each other, and we loved the program, and there was just 100% buy-in. And we loved a good fight, and we always felt like we were the underdogs. And everybody played at that defense. Every guy on that defense was in an NFL camp at one point. I mean, a lot of guys played for a long time. Klug and Claiborne played for a while. We had coaches that simplified it for us and allowed us to play extremely fast. And we ran. If they came up in anything but a slot, we were playing quarter half. We were playing cover 8. They came up in a slot, we were playing cover 1 or cover 3. Most of the time it was cover 3. And we maybe blitzed once or twice a game. So it was playing fast, playing together, and just loving a good scrap. Honestly, what really changed was our junior year. We were like 3-3, and we were getting ready to play. And everyone was just mad at each other. It might have been 3-4. And everyone was just mad at each other. Like, we lost a lot of close games by maybe 2 or 3 points. Games we should have won, and everyone was just frustrated. And it was a Friday walkthrough, and we just get in a whole freaking team brawl. We're getting ready to play Indiana. We just get in a whole team brawl on this Friday walkthrough. Somebody said something, and it's usually the old linemen that are cheating, and then we obviously on defense have to retaliate. And it's never us. We never start.
Yeah, it's never the defense. Yeah, it's always the other guy. Yeah,
we're all honest individuals, and and it's just this big, huge freaking team brawl. And Coach Ferentz kicks us out of practice and yells at us, and we go out and we just kick the crap out of a really good Indiana team at that time. At least they were pretty dangerous. Just watch them on film. And then we ended up winning the rest of the games that season, and ended up winning all the games until we lost to Northwestern. But it was just a scrappy group of dudes, and obviously just dudes that are out of their mind. And you got to have that. You got to have some. Greenwood was the only one that wasn't nuts. Maybe Benz, he wasn't crazy either, but Benz could do some dirty work as well too. But Greenwood was probably the only one that had a future, the only one that could have got a job and would have done a good interview, other than us that are just chewing on crayons and eating rocks.
I'm sure you guys had a blast. It had to be fun, right? I mean, it had to be fucking blast.
Oh, dude, it was great. And too, like, we still didn't think we were that good, and I think that was there was nobody on the team that thought they were bigger than the team, and that's huge.
Yeah, that's a rare thing sometimes, right? To have everyone go to workman mentality and just show up and do your job and work hard. And that's what Chad Greenway said a lot, right? It's just getting to work. Like, you guys just went to work. It was like, it wasn't like you were focused on anything other than just one foot in front of the other and getting better every day, and just that kind of incremental path forward, right? It's interesting to see that or hear that from you guys and see that in progress, right? It's my brother shows up, he's 6'7" and weighs 240, and then he just kept going. He got bigger and faster and stronger, and you're just like, holy shit, this is just like this building blocks of, you can just watch this progression of these teams and watch guys get faster and stronger, and it's wow, this is just that whole mentality. It's impressive.
And that all starts with Coach Ferentz. It starts at the top, and you know him, you've talked to him, like, he's a quality individual, and we spent our most time with Coach Doyle, and there's no way he was going to let us not give 100%.
So we have a question. So we always assume that certain guys had really close relationships with Coach Fry, which really didn't seem that way. Do you think that's the case with Coach Ferentz, or no? Or is it the like individual coaches for the positions you have a tight relationship with? But did you interact with Coach Ferentz that much, or no?
And I did, but not that much. He was a lot on on the offensive side. As far as kind of like the day-to-day, no. But we also had a leadership committee where, you know, it'd get voted on, and we'd meet with Coach Ferentz a lot, and he'd go over, hey, what are the issues, or hey, what do you guys need, and what are you hearing, or hey, this is how I want this is what I want you guys to preach to your teammates. So he was heavily involved in that. And obviously you're with your position coach a lot more, and you're with the strength staff a lot more as well too. But and Coach Ferentz is still a guy too. Like before I had the radio gig, call him often, and he'd always answer. He's probably got a million other things to do, but he'd still take the time to talk to you, help you through an issue, or just check in. And he's as good as it gets, man.
Yeah, definitely. He's a really solid guy. So you guys would have a full panel, more of a structured thing of an interaction that way then. Interesting.
Yeah, and you'd meet with them just one-on-one every year and go over goals and all that stuff. And he was still obviously involved in the day-to-day, but you're not usually with the head coach, as much, unless he was a lot on the offensive side. But I think he spent a lot of time with the linemen, and we beat up the linemen a lot, so he didn't want to hang out with us that much.
Because he liked them better?
I think so. He must have. Dang it.
He's like the favorite kids?
Yeah. Yes, probably.
He's like, oh, you guys are back. Fuck.
God, you damn cran eaters. Like, get away from me.
Exactly. You crazy freaks. I love it. Nice. Any more at Iowa? We want to talk about Iowa? Hurdles, you got anything?
Yeah, just any other games you remember, good or bad, that some people talk about getting their ass kicked, and then that was like a defining moment for them to step up their workouts, the routine, or just be like, I'm never letting that happen again. Or just like a time where you feel like, I played my best game, and just maybe people don't even realize that was something that was a really important game for you. Any of those kind of memories you want to share?
I remember my first time on kickoff, my redshirt freshman year. I was all excited. I was on special teams, and I ran down on kickoff. I think we were playing like Maine, and I tried to bust the wedge and just got knocked out. Like it wasn't. I don't know why. Everybody watching Zach Galen. Zach Galen was really good on kickoff, and he could just run through people. And but it didn't work out for me that much. And then I'm like, this is Maine. This isn't anybody. And so that was like, all right, dude, you gotta figure it out. Maybe don't run your head against a 300-pound lineman. There was a time going into my senior year, we had some guys getting into some trouble, and Coach Ferentz ran conditioning. And when Coach Ferentz ran conditioning, it's not good because you just run forever. But yeah, there was a situation where some guy wasn't. We were walking off, and some guy wasn't holding his weight, and I had to get a little physical with him. And don't condone it or anything, but nobody really messed around after that, and put us in the right direction. Yeah, for that season, I think it put us on a right step, and it woke guys up and like, all right, hey, this is the real stuff. And somebody probably should have punched me in the face when I was younger and got my stuff together too.
It could be that little of a thing that changes the whole season. It's such a fine line between even an average team and a great team. It could be just one incident or the right interaction where someone says the right thing, or that team meeting that changes the course of it. It's little advantages there and there. It just takes the timing of those things. I think our senior year, we talked about, we were one play, I think, from having just a complete meltdown of a season. And one guy makes one play, and it just escalates and turns everything completely around. But if he hadn't made that play, I don't know where that season would have gone. Demo against Michigan State, like, I think we would have lost that game, and it would have been under 500 team.
Yeah.
So we ended 9-3. So it's like that little of a difference can make a huge impact on the whole season.
Yeah, and I think about that too. Like, even with like my experience, or like even growing up, like my parents could try to think, hey, and I think about this as a parent, like my parents, like, hey, do this, or do this is how you should do it, and you don't listen to them. But then like somewhere 3 years down the line, some guy says the same thing to you, and you're like, oh, my kids don't listen to the damn thing I say, but if some coach can put it in a different way, but say the same thing, like they'll listen to them. So hopefully somebody gets some education in their brains.
I think it's a compounding thing, to be honest. I think it's a thing that just has to resonate over time. And I think at some point you have to it has to snap to a certain degree. It's probably that season Brion's talking about. It's like we just had to get to that point where, like, fuck it, we're not gonna do this thing anymore. We're gonna go this direction. And like you have to just, I think something just clicks in it. You're like, all right, oh, boom, you see it. Let's go this way and do it that way, I think.
Get out of your own head, or get out of your own way, maybe.
Yeah.
Say, like, I gotta relax, I gotta do my thing, or something just has to change, and it's catapults.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that's team building in general too, right? You go through so much, and once you gel in those ways of trusting other people and having other people's backs, and that's a lot of it too, right? Offense and defense, picking people up when they're down.
Yeah.
Keeping people level-headed when they're up. Like it's a lot of, it's funny how many little pieces to this game there is, right? It's whether it's fans, whether it's tutors, whether it's coaches, whether it's your family, like all these things of like, how does a successful team work, right? You were talking to the minute details of if one guy does the wrong thing and one guy does the right thing. Like he's just, there's a guy behind him and it affects them. So it's really like, I guess, the ultimate team sport, and to see those things work well is amazing. And then also when people see it not work well, they're like, oh, that guy did that. And you're like, there's a lot of other pieces to this game, right? Or if kid shows up and doesn't play well on Saturday, you're like, okay, is there something else happening, or what happened to that week at school? And there's a lot of emotions, a lot of these things. And I think there's so much of a limelight on it at times that some of these things get missed, that, okay, these are 18-year-old kids, and like, all right, you're expecting them to act like grown adult men, right? And they're not. They're kids. They're figuring it out. They're figuring out life and all that.
Yeah, and especially nowadays, I'm so happy I played when I played. Like there wasn't any, really, social media wasn't big. There wasn't the NIL stuff. There wasn't all these agents and outside stuff to worry about. I couldn't imagine going through it right now. These kids got a whole lot more stuff to worry about and think about than we did. And I still struggled with it. I can imagine going through it right now.
Yeah, imagine 10 years earlier when we barely had the internet, I think. Didn't we just barely? It was like we had a computer lab. It was like,
you guys could get away with everything, huh?
Yeah, we're kind of like, oh, wow. Like a cell phone? We're like, what is this thing? I can drive around with this thing in my car? This is amazing.
Yeah, the worst thing was, like, maybe they said something bad about you in the paper, and then on Sunday, and then the next day, like, it's gone. There's very little video of it. And so had a very short shelf life, and then you had to watch the film. Then on the Monday, you had to go through that embarrassment, and then it was done.
Highlights. We had ESPN highlights that you had to watch. We watched those a lot. Those would be on loop because it was on for 24 hours. So you're like, you watch it at 6, and then you watch it at midnight, and then you watch it when you woke up in the morning. So you see that for a couple, 3 times.
Those film sessions after a tough game, like those were the worst. Those were hard. Oh gosh, those were tough. Yeah. And like I would try to go in and try to delete all the bad plays, and could never figure that out. Because IT guys are good.
Yeah, right. The film doesn't lie, for sure.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. You play the game and then you're like, oh man, I gotta see this thing at some point. What did I do? What happened? Like, how do I fix this? Fuck. Like that constant like machine in your head that's like trying to make you better kind of thing. It's great in one way, but also horrible in the other. You're like, why am I up at 2 a.m. on Saturday night and be like thinking about the one thing I did today in front of 80,000 people? Maybe that's more of a kicker thing too, because we only had 4 of them. So I was like, oh, those 3 were great, but that one fucking sucked.
And that's, people give kickers crap, but I can mess up 5 times a game and nobody would know. You guys mess up 1 time, everybody freaking knows. And sometimes it could be the hold. Like sometimes it could be, you don't know. It could be the snap. Could be you're getting rushed or whatever. People, kickers. It's a tough gig, man. Kicking stuff, especially like in the NFL. There's 32 kickers. There's 32 punters. There's 15 linebackers on every team. It's a little bit easier to get in as a linebacker.
Yeah, that's a harder thing. That took me a while to realize that I was like, man, I made it for a quick second, then I was out, and I was like, fuck, I guess I was one of 30 people or 30 some people. I'm like, okay, I guess I could let it go a little bit. Like, fuck, I don't know.
10, 15 years too. So it's not like they're going to be gone in a couple of years.
Oh, the longevity. Yeah, right. They stay around forever.
Kicking is the only, there's no real kicking coach. There's no position coach for kicking. Yeah, you've got your special teams coach, but they're also another position coach. And I think kickers, they're so good at like self-coaching and self-teaching, way better than any other position, because they're essentially self-taught. Yeah, you've got camps and stuff you can go to now. There's no kicking coach in anywhere. There's no kicking coach in the NFL either. It's all, these guys they're all basically self-taught and self-critiqued.
Oh yeah. And the special teams coaches in the NFL, I think, are their own breed of animals comparatively. Like they're
wild. They're wild.
Rusty old men. Yeah, right.
Yes.
Just like old, like ratchety guys. Just just grizzly. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Their attitudes, just like cursing at people. Yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah, they're not happy individuals for sure.
Yeah. Definitely not well-adjusted humans for sure. That's awesome. So let's talk about getting ready for the draft and kind of that part if you want, and talk about your pro career.
Yeah, combine. Yeah, I didn't. My knee was a little banged up. I had some stuff, so I didn't do any of the All-Star games or anything like that. But I loved the training for the combine. Stayed in Iowa City. Our whole group stayed in Iowa City, and we're all trained together and just had a ton of fun. And I bowled so much because we'd train and then we'd have all day to do whatever. So I bowled quite a bit. And I bowled so much I got tendonitis like really bad in my knee from bowling. So my knee was all banged up, but it was fine by the time I got to the combine. And yeah, the combine's weird. Like until I went to it, I didn't realize how just terrible of an environment it is to compete. You're up early, you're sitting around, you're not really eating really healthy, and maybe it's different now, but it's really long days of just, gosh, there was one room, I think you're like in your spandex and you're sitting on a table and there's like a bunch of doctors, physical therapists that are there and in the stands, and they read off all your injuries, and then random guys will come up and grab your arm and move it, or grab your leg or whatever. And, okay, all right, I want to get him an MRI with this, or an ultrasound, or whatever, or a CT scan, and then you end up, then you got to go that night until 11 or 12 at night and get your scans done. And when I got there, actually, my luggage, I didn't have any of my stuff. My luggage got all messed up, so I didn't have any of my stuff. So I was using just the stuff they gave us, which was fine. But I had some fancy cleats I was excited to break out. But combine was okay. I did mediocre, average. I think I ran like a 4.7, jumped 35. Nothing really crazy. But I'm always impressed by guys that can go there and that they compete at a really high level. I think that's true talent. Those guys that can do that, it's extremely impressive. And then pro day, I think it ran 4.6, jumped like 39, 30, I don't know, whatever. And but then I pulled my groin in the 3-cone drill, like really bad. It was bruised all the way down to my knee. So then I'm like, shoot, I didn't really do that good really anywhere. I was pretty bummed out. Didn't think that I was really going to get drafted or anything. Like, I had no idea. Basically rehabbed all the way up to the draft. And my agent did a really good job of, a lot of guys will get agents and the agents will say, hey, if you go with me, you're going to go really high. And my agent was like, hey, you could go 3rd round, 2nd round, you could go free agent. I have no idea. Just, I'll get you on a team. Don't stress out about it, which I thought that was great. I had no high hopes or anything like that. I just wanted an opportunity. I knew I could play football and just wanted a chance to play. And I guess going back, it's interesting. My sophomore year, I'm thinking about giving up football. And then 2 years later, I'm at the combine. I'm getting ready to possibly get drafted. And then I get a call from the Colts in the late second round, toward the end of the second round, and they picked me up. And that was cool, man. That was a really cool time. That was. It's weird. It seems like yesterday, but it was like 700 years ago. But I remember the first thing I thought was like, oh, they draft me in the second round. That means they're not going to cut me. And that was like my first thought.
That fear is real though, right?
Yeah.
That's like,
Yeah.
you want to sweat something. That's one thing that'll get you like nonstop. It's like, am I going to get cut? I'm like, am I staying on the team?
Yeah. There's so many guys so many guys, especially during camp, became really good friends with them. And the next day, like they're gone and you never see them again. They're on a plane heading home. It's definitely a business, and they're just as good, just as talented as anybody else. You just don't know. And when I got drafted by Indy, there was a linebacker named Gary Brackett who played for 8 or 9 years. And at that time, he had just signed a deal, like a longer term deal, maybe like a 4 or 5 year deal. And so I was a little bit concerned about how that relationship would be. You've got a young guy coming in, drafted as a middle linebacker, and you've got a veteran guy there as a middle linebacker. And you hear stories about people not really treating the rookies really well. And I got there, and Gary Brackett goes, "Hey, dude, like I know why you're here, because you're here to eventually take my job, and my job's to make sure that when that happens, the Colts are in a better position than they are now." And dude, he worked so hard to try to instill in me every bit of knowledge he had, and was just such an instrumental part and just an amazing leader for me and another young linebacker named Cavell Connor that came in with me. Cavell's from Clemson, and he spent a lot of time with us and was so great. And he ended up getting hurt, I want to say 5th game or so into the season, and I started that game and had a really good game. And it was all because of the things that Gary helped me out with, and did so well. Then they moved me to Sam linebacker the rest of the year, and I wasn't a Sam linebacker. I'm like 5'11", 230 pounds at that time. That's not a strong side linebacker. That's not somebody really won on the line of scrimmage. But because of the study sessions with Gary and the early mornings and the late nights, like trying to figure out the defense, I was able to play just fine. And that was really great of him. I completely underestimated the impact he would have on my career there in Indy, and just a good man. And then my second year, Gary ended up getting hurt, and I ended up my first year all rookie team, all that stuff. And it was mainly just because there wasn't a lot of rookie linebackers that were playing, so they got to give it to the guys that were playing. And then my second year, Peyton ended up getting hurt, and he didn't play, and which was tough because we didn't really have another quarterback. There's not another Peyton Manning out there, and so we lost 14 games. I think we lost 13 games in a row. And just like my junior year in high school, our offense was 3 and out a lot, so I was able to make a lot of tackles, but it was just because I played like 3 seasons in one, and it was great making tackles, but man, losing 13 games in a row, like that was not fun. And when we won that first game, it was like we'd won the Super Bowl. So it was so great. It was the best. And we had a guy named Ernie Sims that played. He was a linebacker that he came over from the Eagles, but he was with the Lions when they went 0-16, and he was such a good leader as well, because he was like, "Hey, the media is going to try to bring you apart. This is what they're going to say. This is how they're going to do it. We've got to stick together. Don't point any fingers. Don't stay together." And that was really good to have a leader like that too, who has been through it and to tell us what to do and what not to do. And then after that year, then all the coaches got fired. And Jim Caldwell, Iowa guy, he was my coach my first year. It's just an amazing human. I don't know if you guys know Jim at all, but one of the best, one of the absolute best. He's those good Iowa guys that you guys have talked about. He's extremely intelligent, just great personality, always even keel, really good leader. And then they had got rid of everybody. And then my third year, we ended up switching to a 3-4, and that was a little bit of a tough transition. But I'm just coming off pretty good first 2 years, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm gonna have a good year, and I'm gonna get paid, and gonna extend my contract, and I'm gonna play football forever. And first play of the first preseason game, I stepped to plant and broke my foot, and played the rest of the series, thinking, okay, you're fine, shake it off. And then it got to where I couldn't really walk, so I walked off the field. I'm like, dude, my foot's messed up, and the trainer is moving it. He's like, yeah, it's broken. I'm like, and that was like the first major injury I had, and really it's not a huge one, but as far as like where I had hoped my season was going to go, it was shattered there. And so I went and had surgery the next day, and they were like, all right, 6 to 8 weeks. And in my mind, I'm like, all right, 4 weeks. I'm going to be back when the first game starts, because I'm tougher than all these guys that are 6 to 8 weeks. And so then I tried to come back and early and didn't heal. And I had a choice to get surgery again or sit out the season or play. And I did a dumb decision and decided to play the whole season with a broken foot, and didn't really play very well at all, as you could imagine. I needed a healthy foot. I wasn't fast enough to play on a broken foot and do well. And then after that season, I had to have my knee was jacked up, and had to have a knee surgery, and then a foot surgery, and ended up getting staph infection. This was all like in a month. That was a really tough time for me. And then I think I might have had another one along the way. And then my last year did fine. My knee was just messed up, and ended up having to have another surgery and go on IR, and the Colts released me after that season. So it was 2 years of 6 surgeries, and that was tough for me to come back from, and it was tough on me mentally as well too. Luckily, my wife kept me a little bit sane, but it was really hard just to not be able to compete at the level that you think you are, and to be in pain. And so I had microfracture surgery after my 4th year, and then Colts released me, and then got picked up by the Falcons right before camp, and was able to play, I guess, all of preseason before they decided not to sign me. And that was actually on Hard Knocks. So the only time I was on Hard Knocks was when they were firing me. So that was good. It was a good appearance on HBO.
Oh, God.
I always thought I'd be on like Taxi Cab Confessions, but no, it was Hard Knocks getting fired. That was it.
We really liked what you did. We'll keep you in mind. We'll tell other people about you. All that did they say?
Oh yeah, it was. Hey, we love you. You're great, man, but you suck, basically.
That canned speech, yeah.
And they were right at that time. I couldn't have made it through a full season, and I had no business playing. But the hard part is, for me, my body gave out before my mind did, and that's probably what made the transition a little bit harder being done. But yeah, it's funny because you look at like sophomore year, never going to play again, get drafted 2 years later, have 2 good seasons, I'm going to play forever. Then 2 years later, see ya. It's an interesting journey. And I know a lot of guys have those same things. And just lucky that I was able to play as long as I played, and played with a lot of amazing people. I played with Dallas Clark and Bob Sanders and Peyton and Reggie Wayne, and just all these, just Adam Vinatieri. What an amazing dude Adam Vinatieri is. And when he would go out for game-winning field goals, he'd flip us the bird, and then he'd say, start the buses, because you knew he was going to make it. He didn't. What a badass dude that guy was. He would do our tackle drills with us. He's like this 40-year-old kicker doing tackle drills. He didn't have to do that. He was just, dude was out of his mind.
Oh, that helps sometimes.
Yeah, Pat was our punter, and I was a personal protector my first 2 years, and halfway through my second year, Pat is hilarious. And I remember when he first got into the media stuff, everybody was like, oh, he's funny. I'm like, dude, he's so much funnier without the mic. And then now he's coming to his own, and he is his true self, and he's a good one. And the guy's got a million things going on. He still checks in on me and will respond, and Pat's a good one. But in my second year, I'm playing on all special teams and also playing every snap of defense. And Pat goes, "Hey, you're probably the only middle linebacker in the NFL that's playing all defensive snaps and all special teams." And I was like, "Oh, I guess I never really thought it." He's like, "Yeah, that's a terrible idea, dude. What are you doing? Like, you're gonna get hurt." And after that, I think I was only just then the personal protector after that. But I always liked the special teams because it was like, okay, now I can get 3 or 4 extra tackles a game. I had the stats.
That's great. I still got to go back to, you tried to slide this in there that you said 35 was your vertical jump and you thought that was average?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I didn't like the combine because you jump twice, and if you don't get better, then you're done. Like it was 35 and 35. I'm like, dude, it takes me 3 to get warmed up. But and then I think I might have cheated a little bit better because it was the one where you put your arm out and then you walk. I think I might have cheated a little bit better at the pro day. I was able to get a little bit higher.
40's legit though. Fuck, that's crazy.
That's
squat with the log change you guys did and all that bullshit. For sure.
I remember after one of my knee surgeries or something I had, I started training again. And after I was at my last one and I was at some place training, and they're like, "All right, let's test everything out." My vertical's 30. And I'm like, dude, I got no chance. I'm terrible. I don't know what's going on.
That would have been my max.
There's a lot of mental energy in these things, right? There's a lot of mental energy of dealing with a lot of different shit. So it's interesting to say. What did the guy you were talking about, the veteran who walked you through things, what sort of things was he telling you? Like specific to kind of position wise, like looking for different little cues, or like what? Talk about that if you would.
Yeah, basically how our defense works, what he looks at. For me, it was especially like when you're learning a defense, it's all right, what do I do? Okay, I'm supposed to go here. But hit for me, he really instilled in me like, all right, it's 2nd and 10, and they're in this formation. What are they probably going to do? It's a get right down, right? They're probably going to run so they can get do a little quick pass so they can get a 3rd and short or a 3rd and manageable. Just there's certain situations like that. You thought of it, but not really to some extent. You're so worried about what do I do, and him. Hey, we played a lot of Tampa too, so I was a lot of middle run through, deep third. I'm like, hey, show like you're in man, and then bail back. Or hey, if we're playing 2-man, hey, show like you're in Tampa too, because it's going to look the same. And then hey, now you're man to man on that running back, and you can really trick them. Really, like every single thing that he knew, he helped me out with. It wasn't, and maybe he knew more and was hiding it like a good sensei, but he really took the time, and he didn't have to do that. That dude had money, and he didn't have to be in the facility every day, early in the morning and late at night, teaching me and another rookie linebacker all the stuff he knew. But he did because he gave a shit, and have a ton of respect for him for that.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's right. We talked to Jared DeVries, and he was just like the same thing. He's like talking about like where the guards, if the guard's like hands white because he's pressing down hard, or like somebody lines up a step back because they might pull, or just little parts of the game that people at that high level see and watch, and it helps them with that huge advantage.
Even how to watch film. I watched film, but I didn't really know how to watch film. And just getting keys. Like a lot of them, and they don't do it really anymore, but like a lot of the quarterbacks, when they'd play action with 2 hands on the ball, and they're going to pull it. When they used a lot of the guys, when they would use one, like they're going to hand it off. But when they were play action, they'd really try to sell it with those 2 hands. And it was so easy because it saves you so many missteps as a linebacker. Like, all right, beautiful. He's not handing that off, or yeah, he's handed off. All right, I can go fast.
Interesting. The other part, which is the injury part and the mentality of playing through injury, I guess it's a hard thing, I think. And I guess maybe this is more of a statement than a question. It's an interesting thing because people are like, oh, I need to be out there with my teammates. Mm-hmm. Even if they're hurt, they're going to do it at maybe a detriment even to themselves and to the team. So it's an interesting mentality of just, I'm just so bought in that I'll just do whatever it takes to compete in those things. And I think that's a hard thing to think about being older, I think, maybe, and being like longevity of, oh yeah, you want to be able to walk when you're 60 and those type things. And whatever, but I guess that maybe invincibility as a kid of, oh, I'm just going to go, and oh yeah, my foot's all banged up, but I'm just going to play through it, and cortisone shots and some of those other things. So I think it's
million of those cortisone shots. Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting too, because looking back on it, like if I were to go back and do that, like, no, absolutely not. Never, ever. But at that time, I need to play. And one of the guys told me, I want to say it was Robert Mathis. He goes, do you know, like, when you're done playing the NFL is still going to go on without you. The Colts are still going to be an organization without you. They don't give a shit. Like, it doesn't matter. No one cares. So you got to take care of yourself, and you've got to do what's right for you, and don't worry about anything else. Which is, it's interesting because, like, at Iowa, like, the mindset was for me, and I think for our team was, dude, it's this over everything. And then it becomes a little bit of a business in the NFL, and you do have to take care of yourself. But for me, I'm just stubborn, and I didn't take Robert's advice. I tried to play through it, and many cortisone shots in my knee. Many times I've had it drained. I've had every freaking injection in that knee. I've probably had, I don't know, 5 or 6 surgeries since I got done playing on that knee. And yeah, going back, obviously, I wish I would have been a little bit smarter and less stubborn. But I do think ego does come into play as well too. I'm going to fight through it. I'm going to do that. But for where my talent was and at that level, I couldn't have.
But there's that expectation too, though, I think, from fans, from sort of other teammates, or that gets rewarded, that mentality, that grit, that kind of go through really serious adversity, that gets rewarded. So it's interesting thinking about it in those terms of, is that the right thing long term? And yeah, how do you think about it? How do you deal with that? I guess it's hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was tough too, because like I was mad because I was hurt, but then I was mad because I wasn't playing well, and it was like that was a really hard. It probably for my football career, it was probably mentally about as low as I've been. It was definitely a struggle for me.
A lot of guys are saying that too, like just trying to go through injuries was brutal and make them want to quit, or they're just disconnected from the team, or they, even if it wasn't prevalent to transfer back then, it was on their mind because like, this is terrible. And I don't think people really realize that. Even our own teammates, I don't think we realize what guys are going through when they're injured like that. That's way more mentally, like you said, almost worse than the physical pain.
Yeah, and 100%. And I talked to Etor, Big E, about this, and he had a bunch of injuries at Iowa, and you're so locked into like your own journey and your own struggles and your own hurdles you've got to get through that you don't really look and see what everybody else is going through, because everybody else is going through the same crap, and nobody talks about it. Nobody will, nobody's gonna, hey man, I'm struggling here. I'm struggling. And no, absolutely not, right? But you've got 100 other guys that have gone through that same stuff that have so much knowledge to bring to you and so much compassion and empathy, but you just don't do it.
And another thing that kind of has been a pattern is like you hear guys that have some like lower leg foot injury, and then the next thing they're like, well, then my knee got hurt, and you're like, some of those compounding pieces, right? I've never even thought about that terms of you fuck up your foot, and then all of a sudden you're probably running differently, or you're doing something different, that your physiology or whatever is going to be different because you're hurt, and then that'll compound with something else down the line, which is interesting to think about it in that way too.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. It's on my right side. It's on my right side. It's all jacked up. I'm still ugly. I was kind of hoping that something would fix that, but
so literally a face for radio.
The amount of times I've heard that.
That's awesome.
That's a good transition. Maybe as we wrap up here.
Yeah, let's.
Did you find out? Yeah, about the gig? Can you tell us a little bit of? Did they reach out to you? Did you express interest? Was this something ever on your radar?
Did you ever done it before?
No. The last time I did a radio interview. It was after Penn State, and Dolph had asked me, "Hey, man, great game. How's the environment down there in the locker room?" And I was like, "Dolph, it's great. There's just a bunch of naked guys running around. Like, it's awesome." And that was the last time they allowed me to do the radio at Iowa. And yeah, I knew Ed was retiring, and really didn't think about it at all. Didn't think, it didn't cross my mind. And then I get a call from Gabe Aguirre in Hawkeye Radio Network, and initial call was just to gauge interest, and they were reaching out to a bunch of guys just to see if anybody had any interest in it. And I had called my wife, and I was like, "Hey, what do you think?" I'd be gone a lot more. Obviously, we got 3 kids, and she's like, "Call him back right now and tell him yeah." And so I called him back. I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." My wife signed off on it, so that's obviously got to go to the boss first and make sure that she's okay with it. And then we did like a Zoom call with a couple more people, and Dolph was on that, and they asked some questions. And then we did a game simulation. We did the fourth quarter of the Michigan State game from 2023, and they had told us about it prior to, and I was watching the film and watching the YouTube and taking notes and basically like writing a script. And this was like, I did this for 2 days. And then I like videotaped I recorded myself talking, and I sounded like such an idiot. I sounded like not like me. I sounded like somebody that I wouldn't listen to. And I didn't sound real. I didn't sound authentic at all. It sounded fake. And talking to some buddies and telling them what I'm doing, and they're like, "The game isn't scripted. It's not going to be scripted when you're there. So go there and be yourself. And if you go there and you be yourself and they don't like it, that's great. At least you were yourself. And if you go there and you be yourself and they do like it, at least then you don't have to act like something that you're not all year." And that was like the best advice I could have gotten. I was really nervous for the game simulation, and obviously you sit down with Gary and you hear that beautiful voice, and it just puts you at ease. And that was fun, man. It was really good, and I got done with it, and I probably didn't do great, or I don't know. I did fine, but I left it without any regret, and I left happy. Hey, if it happens, awesome, and if it doesn't, I'm just so happy that I was even considered. And then when I got the call that I got, that was great, but it was also kind of like a no crap moment. Like, all right, now this is real. Now I've got to get my life together and figure it out. But it was so much fun. It was a blast this year. It was great just being around the program again and being around Coach Ferentz and all the staff, and seeing that they instilled the same things in these kids that they instilled in us. And you're there for all the cool stuff. You're there for the games. You're there for the fun stuff. Like, you don't have to. Yeah, I watch film and all that stuff during the week, but you don't have to sit around and practice and watch all that. And it was just, it was really good for my soul. And I talked about transition out of football and how that was hard. This brings you back, and it brings you back. It brought me back to where I could still be a dad. You're gone Friday and Saturday, but my kids play football on Sundays, and I can coach them on Sundays, and I can coach them during the week, and I could still be there. And I've been with my wife since I was 15. So she's been through every step of the process. So she understands how that stuff works, and to have her support was great. But that first game, man, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. Probably scared as I've been ever. But it got easier as it went on, and got more comfortable, and try to become more of an analyst. And there's some stuff that obviously I need to get better at everything. And it's just like when you're playing, you need to get better at everything and get more comfortable with it. And Gary's forgotten more about radio than I know. And really going back to that first game, we did the game simulation, but after that, we didn't do any dry runs or anything like that. So I didn't even know how the process worked. I had no idea. And we've got a producer engineer, Corey Sheets, who's an amazing guy, and he helped me out quite a bit as well too. And yeah, man, it was great. It was fun. And it's kind of hard keeping your composure sometimes on the radio, but luckily I learned to talk when Gary slaps me.
It's funny you say that. Marv Marv Cook was talking about, he thought about going into like TV broadcasting for a while. He went to, I think, like a boot camp for ESPN or something. He talked about how hard it was to be in that position and to talk through games and do that. That's really tough. That's impressive. What's your prep look like? So you thinking, obviously you got to get comfortable with the team you're playing and the guys. You got to be able to reference that part. Is there any other like deep the football knowledge, at least from the defensive side? Do you do a bunch of other stuff, or is that kind of about it?
Yeah. But I mean, gosh, my last game was 2014, and it's 2025. So it was learning the lingo again. Like and the lingo that they use and that we used in Indy, and a little bit different, but football's essentially football. But for me, what I like to do is, and I get the all 22 tape, the tape that we were able to watch in college and in the pros, and take it as kind of like a game week. I'm first and second down runs and passes, and then I'll go Tuesday. I'll go to their blitzes, their blitz pickup, and then I'll go to like their short yardage, and then I'll go to their goal line, their 2 minute. Just break it down like I would when I was playing, and that way you're not spending a whole bunch of time. Really, I'm not going to spend 10 hours a day watching it. I'm going to spend a couple hours a day before bed or whatever, just breaking it down. And it took me a little bit to dial in that process, because obviously that first week I'm watching everything, and it's you don't necessarily need to watch all that and get that crazy. But I did toward the end. I did like to watch I tried to record the other team's TV games, because then you can hear, oh, hey, this guy's good or that guy's good. 'Cause sometimes you're watching on film, you don't necessarily pick up on that. But yeah, just kind of get an idea of what they're doing, what they're trying to do, who are their studs. Yeah, and obviously there's things I need to get better at. I want to spend more time up in Iowa City and more time with the coaches, trying to figure out their lingo, how they want it to be broadcasted and all that. Because it was late in the process when it got announced, and I wasn't really able to get up there that much. But definitely we'll spend more time up in Iowa City.
Your wife's tired of you doing your voice work in the shower too, probably?
No, I don't know. I think I sound like an idiot, but luckily Gary sounds good. A little yin and yang.
You sounded great. I was like, man, that's a big job. That's not easy to do. So you did great.
And sometimes you have no idea what's going on. Like especially like some of the booths, they don't have the replay up there, and you're trying to figure out who did what. But yeah, Gary navigates through it really well. It's fun. It's a blast though. It's definitely, it's like an improv show. It's a rush, and you miss that. You don't have that anymore at a lot of times in life, and it's cool to be around it, man.
Watching all the games?
Oh, go ahead.
Previous games? Are you watching multiple games of the opponents, or are you just grabbing the last game?
Yeah, I usually will watch like their last 3 or their last 2 on TV. But as far as those are the only ones that I'll watch from start to finish. Usually I'll watch their cut-ups. I'll look and see their power O team or their inside zone team. What's their defensive front? What coverages do they like? Are they big tackle over? So I'll watch their cut-ups like that. And it's nice how it's broken down. It makes it pretty easy. I did tell Gary once I was like, if we score here, I'm going to kiss you on the lips or something. And after the game, he's like, hey, I know the fans probably like that, but please don't say you're going to kiss me anymore, because I don't know if you're serious or not, and I don't know if I can stop you. And I'm like, all right, I'll stop.
I take what I want.
But it's great, man. Obviously, Gary's a legend, and being able to just be around him, and you go out to dinner the night before and just laughing at his stories, like the dude's amazing, and it's cool hanging out with him all the time.
Yeah, you gotta love those old school announcer types too. Bob Brooks was there when we were there, just like the same.
Yeah,
just the football knowledge, like the people. They're always like huge persons.
Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty awesome that way.
Yeah,
well,
those
congrats.
guys.
Yeah, it's exciting. That's we're excited to watch you. For listening.
Thanks. Yeah, hopefully they'll let me do it for a lot longer, because I had a ton of fun, man. was great. And Nashville was a good time. It was fun down there. It was forget about the bowl games, but yeah, it was great. It's just weird. I never ever expected to be on the radio doing Iowa games. Never ever at all.
You better watch out. Epinesa might be gunning for you. He was like, he took over that. What was the Hawk Huddle thing?
Oh yes. Oh, Epi's the best, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. I was like, oh, Epi came out of a shell. I love it.
He's great.
Great. Anything else? What else?
No, man, I feel like I rambled on.
No, that was great, man. We
I
got all
talked
the
too
great
much.
stuff. Oh, it was.
God, you guys had me crying on here, talking all the time, but yeah, I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this.
We get people that we're that way to people.
Hey, the things we do to get away from our kids.
Yeah, I love it. Do you think Dolph would come on?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, nice. That'd be fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I'll shoot him a message. I'm sure he will.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Get him before the season. So yeah.
What'd you say?
We'll try to get him, but maybe before the season when he's not busy as much.
Oh, heck yeah. I don't know how
He's
he
doing
does it.
basketball now, right?
Yeah, I guess I was doing it just the football games, obviously, and then halfway through the season, he's doing football games, he's doing basketball games, he's doing the Hawk Talk for basketball, he's doing the Hawk Talk for football. He lives near Dubuque. Like the dude's a machine, and he's been doing it for however many years, and he's still got that same just enthusiasm. And what I love about it is he loves Iowa football as much as we do. He played, and he's like, when we lose, like, he's pissed. It matters to him, and that's what's so great, and that's why he's been able to do it for so long and be so successful, because
Yeah, I think the fans like that too, right? They know that they care, and they'll say, hey, that's, what they're thinking, right? They're not just holding back or just trying to be raw and everything's all rosy.
Yeah.
And he's always jazzed to see it too, right? He's always like the older guys. He's always jacked up to see you and excited and remembers things from back in the day. It's awesome.
Oh, heck yes. Heck yeah.
Do you have another job as well?
Yeah, so I work at a local credit union, IH Mississippi Valley Credit Union. I did mortgages for, 4 or 5 years. And then about 2 years ago, I switched over to business development and community funding, which has been a great switch. Business development, you're out there in the community, you're building those relationships with business owners and community partners. And then to the community funding side is we're a nonprofit. Our duty is to give back to communities that we serve. And so I handle all of our donations to all the nonprofits. And it's been really great. And I talked to my wife, obviously, when I got offered, not offered, but when they were like, hey, do you want to pursue this job? But first, after my wife, I went and I talked to the higher ups at IH, and I just kind of told them, like, hey, I've got this opportunity. I don't know if it's going to work or not. Love to pursue it. If you don't want me to, completely understand. They were like, Pat, if it's good for you, it's good for us. And that's super cool. That's to have a place like that, to have that support, like, that's freaking awesome. And yeah, so I never thought, it's weird. I'm a banker and I'm on the radio, and I never even planned on going to college. It's just a weird, life is weird, man.
That's the fun part about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know it's coming. That's amazing.
No.
That's awesome. Thank you, sir.
Much, Pat. That's awesome.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys.